Your Majesty, please agree to my request to marry me. Daughter, you are aware of your father's serious illness. Don't you want to leave me completely alone? Everyone knows that kings cannot marry for love. However, King George III of Great Britain and Ireland will succeed. He was so deeply immersed in his love for Queen Sophia Charlotte of Mecklenburg-Strelitskaya that he did not have a single favorite in his entire life. The writer Alexander Marinina called him a happy husband and an unhappy father. Indeed, the king's happiness was in his marriage, but this success did not apply to his children. Even in the context of the strict norms of the Enlightenment era, King George's family stood out for its foundations and beliefs, which are difficult to imagine today. These features of family values had a strong influence on the future fate of their children. Of the 6 daughters of the king, only 3 will be able to marry, and none of them will become mothers. Princess Sophia Matilda of Great Britain will remain famous thanks to ambiguous rumors about family ties with her older brother, Duke of Cumberland Ernst August, and even about an illegitimate child. An entertaining childhood. Sophia was born on November 2, 1777 in London at Buckingham Palace. Her childhood was spent in the circle of an extensive, stormy, and joyful family, consisting of 9 brothers and 5 sisters. The father, the sovereign, valued above all strictness, neatness, order, and observance of social norms. For example, when he appeared in the room, the daughters were obliged to stand in a position and remain silent, and to start a conversation or leave the room, only with his permission. The king paid much more attention to his daughters than to his sons, and often attended their birthdays and other celebrations. His daughters' academic achievements were regularly reported to him. A close friend of the royal family remarked that he had never seen such wonderful children before, and was especially impressed by his father's love for them. The queen personally brought up her daughter's commitment to asceticism in everyday life, nutrition, and clothing. The empress paid much attention to the education of her children, hiring the best teachers to teach foreign languages, music, art, and geography. Her Majesty tried to combine her studies with physical development by organizing outdoor games in the park. Difficult age and father's madness. Over time, Sophia, like her sisters, grew up. Gradually, children's entertainment became boring, and the princesses wanted male attention. They dreamed of marriage, since childhood they had been preparing for future matrimony. However, the mother's plans were not to marry her daughters off before they reached adulthood. The king still had concerns about the unsuccessful marriages of his sisters. It was decided to completely protect the girls from male attention from high society. Thus, only the eldest daughter Charlotte managed to get married relatively early. The other sisters, including Sophia, patiently continued to grow up under maternal supervision. In their view, the palace turned into a kind of convent. His Majesty deeply loved his daughters and expressed his intention to take them with him to Hanover to help them find worthy suitors, but the onset of the king's illness thwarted all these plans. In the autumn days of 1788, the court physician gave a diagnosis. The king is in a state close to clouding his mind. He screamed, and if he spoke, his words sounded incoherent, like the mumbling of a child. The monarch's condition worsened, and anxiety attacks became stronger. The sick king was confined to his chambers, tied to his bed. Rituals of exorcism of evil spirits were performed for him, and even beaten according to doctors' orders. By that time, Sophia was only 11 years old. She wrote in her diary, "My father loved me very much and treated me well, but sometimes, as I can say, I felt a certain fear when I was near him." And suddenly, the King of Great Britain began to recover gradually, and then fully recovered. The question arose, what was it? The result of a tough and difficult treatment, or has it passed by itself? The answer remains unknown. Since that time, the question of marriage, which had previously confused the monarch, was rarely raised. The mother of her daughters, greatly fearing possible new attacks, took measures to ensure that this issue remained in the background. In 1811, the monarch fell into insanity for the third and last time. The second case was in 1801. The Prince of Wales, George, became regent of the kingdom, and only after that the situation of the girls improved a little. The Queen Mother finally gave up under the pressure of her son and allowed the girls to occasionally appear in society. At that moment, Sophia was already 34 years old. By all standards, she was considered an old maid. In the pursuit of female happiness and motherhood, the lack of attention from high society forced them to turn their attention to grooms and footmen. George's third family biographer, Carl Greville, wrote at the time, "For girls, the attention of men is much more important than the achievements of the mind and physique." The princesses were ready to surrender to the first one whom fate would bring them. Sophia began to be noticed in the company of the royal master of the horse, Major General Thomas Garth, who was 33 years older. The general had a large mole on his cheek. "Nasty old devil," Greville noted. But what can you do? For Sophia, this was the first and last chance to experience the taste of female happiness. There were rumors about the interesting position of the princess, and then about the birth of a child in 1800. However, no official statements have been received from the royal court, and there is little reliable information on this issue. Contemporaries disagree, and so far no clear evidence has been found. It is assumed that the child was baptized by the royal master of the horse himself, and he was given the name Thomas. General Garth took the baby to Weymouth, where his mother could visit him from time to time. Thomas Garth Jr. was brought up under the watchful guidance of his father. Life after death. The illness of the former monarch continued to drag on for another 10 long years. In 1818, the Queen Mother passed away, unable to withstand the burden of trials. Sophia could no longer stay in the castle, which for many years became a kind of golden cage for her and her sisters. After her parents left, she quickly moved to Kensington Palace to live with her sister-in-law, Princess Victoria, Duchess of Kent, the future heir to the British throne. There is evidence that in 1828, Garth Jr. tried to prove his connection with the royal house with the help of certain documents, but it was not successful. However, thanks to the efforts of Victoria's controller, Sir John Conroy, who successfully defended the royal family from these claims, Sophia's relationship with him has improved. She was even allowed to trust him with the management of her finances. In recent years, Sophia, with her eyes fixed on the outgoing time, felt that she was confused in intrigues and did not realize how she was being used. She gained access to the Duchess of Kent's social circle and was asked by the controller to inform him of all events at the palace when he was absent. Conroy not only disrupted the relationship between aunt and niece, but also led to the financial ruin of Sophia, leaving her completely without funds. He purchased 3 estates for a total of £22,000. For the efforts made by the princess, he was awarded the position of Knight Commander of the Hanoverian Order. The last 10 years of Sophia's life were almost devoid of bright events. Her life was extinguished on May 27, 1848 in the evening. The final assessment can be expressed in the words of the same Carl Greville. She left blind and helpless, suffering a martyr's death. Princess Sophia was an intelligent and educated woman, but she always seemed to be out of this world.